module 4, that is the electrical machine. So here we'll discuss about the DC machine, and first of all we'll discuss about the construction of the DC machine. Basically, the machine is the electrical device which can convert the electrical power to mechanical power and vice versa. So let's start. A DC machine is an electromechanical energy conversion device which converts the mechanical power to the electrical power or the electrical power to the mechanical power. The DC machine is actually an alternating current machine, but it is furnished with a special type of device which is called as commutator. Under certain conditions, the commutator may change the AC power to DC power and vice versa. That depends upon the application. The DC machine can be classified into two types. First of all, the DC motor. It converts the DC electrical power to the mechanical power. The DC motor is basically operates based on the Lorentz formula, which is represented by F is equal to B into I into L, where B is the flux density, I is the current flowing through the conductor, and L is the length of the conductor. It states that when a current carrying conductor is placed within a magnetic field, then a force will be developed on the conductor. And depending upon this force, the torque will be produced, which is the product of force into the radius of the circle. And if the torque is sufficient, then the system will be rotating. So basically, in case of motor, DC motor, you have to give the DC power supply as the electrical power supply, and we'll create some force, then torque, and finally we'll get the mechanical power in terms of rotational speed. The second type of the machine is called generator. That is the DC generator. It converts the mechanical power to the DC electrical power, and the generator operates based on the principle of Faraday law of electromagnetic induction, which is represented as E is equal to minus N d phi by dt. So it states that if a changing flux cuts any conductor, then the EMF will be induced in the conductor, and the induced EMF will oppose its cause according to the Lenz's law. That's why here the minus sign is used. So basically, the electrical machine is of two types. One is called the motor and another is called the generator. And these are the formula for the operating principle of the motor and generator that we'll discuss in detail later. The DC machine, although it is of two types, motor and generator, but the motor used frequently because the main benefits of the DC motor is that the torque regulation as well as the easy speed control of the machine. The applications of the DC machine is limited to the electric locomotive, for example, trains. Then it is used in mills and mines, for example, the underground subway cars, trolley cars, etc. Earlier in automobiles, the DC dynamo is used for charging the batteries. So this is also the application of the DC generator. Let's see the construction of the DC machine. As we have already discussed that whether it is the DC motor or DC generator, there we have to create some magnetic field, and then we require some conducting material. So depending upon this requirement, any rotating electrical machine, including the DC machine, is mainly of two parts. First one is called the stator and another one is called the rotor. The stator and rotor are separated from each other by the air gap. That means there should be some gap between the stator as well as the rotor. The stator is the outer frame of the machine and it is the stationary by nature, whereas the rotor is free to move and it is the inner part of the machine. Both the stator as well as the rotor are made by the ferromagnetic materials such as cast iron or silicon steel, and normally thin laminated sheets are used for the construction. This is because of to reduce the hysteresis loss and the eddy current loss. So let's see the essential parts of the DC machine, because as we have already discussed, the DC motor operates based on the principle F is equal to BIL, and the DC generator works on the principle of Faraday law of electromagnetic induction. So in both type of machines, we require the magnetic field, we require the conducting material, and so on. Remember one thing, the DC machine, when we consider the machine, that means we are talking about the motor as well as the generator. And for DC machine, both the motor and generator is same. That means as far as the construction is concerned, the construction of the motor as well as the construction of the generator is same. Only the applications are different. So the essential part of the DC machine. As we have already discussed, there are two parts. One is called the stator, another is called the rotor. So in stator, we have yoke or frame, we have pole, pole core, and pole shoes, and we have interpoles. Then we have field windings, and finally brass and brass holder. So these are the part of the stator. These are the stationary of the machine, stationary part of the machine. They do not rotate during the operation. On the other hand, the rotor, which is the rotating part, it has the following components, that is the armature core, then the armature windings, then the commutator, then the bearings and the shaft. So here this figure is basically shown as a cross section of the DC machine. Here we can see that the outer cover is considered as a frame or the yoke. The poles are connected with the frame in the inner side of the machine, and at the end of the pole, the cross section area is little bit more compared to the cross section area of the pole. This is called the pole shoe. Here, these are called the interpoles. These are the main poles. So there are four main poles, and in between the main poles, there are some small size of pole, which is considered as the interpole. In the center, this circle represents the rotor. First of all, this is the armature core. This is the core of the armature, where lots of conductors are placed. These are called the armature windings. Then we have commutator. This small circle is considered as a commutator. And then we have the shaft. The other things we'll show and we'll discuss one by one later. So here the magnetic field is produced in the stator, and when we supply the current from the external circuit to the rotor windings, that means armature windings, then depending upon F is equal to BIL formula, the rotor will start to rotate and will get the mechanical energy. On the other hand, if the rotor is rotating by some prime mover, then within the magnetic field there will be a change in flux that will cut the rotor conductor. Then according to the Faraday law of electromagnetic induction, the EMF will be induced in the rotor conductor. So basically the rotor conductor, or we can say the armature windings, is the place where actually the energy conversions take place. That means in case of motor, it is from electrical to mechanical power, and for generator, mechanical power to electrical power. So this energy conversion is basically takes place in the armature winding. So we'll discuss one by one. So first is the frame or yoke. Yoke is the outer cover of the machine which supporting and protecting the internal parts from the moisture, dust, etc. So this is the construction of the frame. Normally the frame of the DC machine is look like that. It is made by low reluctance material like silicon steel or cast iron since it has to carry the magnetic flux, that is to provide the closed path for the flux produced through the pole. The purpose of the frame or yoke is the main purpose is to protect the uh, inner part or the internal part of the machine from the moisture and dust. The second purpose of the frame or yoke is that it provides the a return part of the magnetic flux which is produced in the pole of the machine. Next, the pole core and pole shoe. The magnetic pole of the DC motor are structured fitted onto the inner wall of the yoke with screw. So this is the figure of pole. This total figure is considered as the pole. Here, this part is considered as the pole core, and below here the cross section is little bit more, which is considered as a pole shoe. This pole is connected in the inner circle of the frame by using the screw. The magnetic pole basically comprises of two parts, that is the pole core and the pole shoe, stacked together and then attached to the yoke. So in case of pole, it has two components. One is called the pole core, so this rectangular part. Another is the pole shoe, that is the this part which is connected with the pole core. The pole core is a small cross-sectional area and its function is just to hold the pole shoe over the yoke. And pole shoe having a larger cross-sectional area spreads the flux over the air gap between the stator and rotor to reduce the loss due to the reluctance. Basically, when the magnetic field is produced in the pole of the machine, then this magnetic field will cross the air gap and it will cut the rotor. If we see the figure, so this is the pole with pole shoe and this is the rotor. So here the magnetic poles are created, that is north pole and south pole, and this flux will flow from north to south, so it will cross the air gap. So the purpose of the pole shoe is to distribute the magnetic field, distribute the flux uniformly throughout the rotor of the machine so that the flux should be uniform. The other purpose of the pole shoe is that the winding which is placed on the pole core, it should not come out during the operation because during the operation there will be vibrations, and because of these vibrations the windings which are placed on the pole, it may come out from its position. So the pole shoe basically hold the winding as well as it makes the air gap flap uniform so that there will be no fringing effect in the machine. The pole core and pole shoe are made by thin laminated sheets of cast iron or the cast steel, that is to reduce the eddy current loss and the hysteresis loss. The material, that is the cast iron and cast steel, which has very low hysteresis group, so it creates less hysteresis loss. And similarly, the laminated sheets are basically used, that is to reduce the eddy current loss in the system. Next is the field winding. The field winding of the DC machine are made with the field coils wound over the slots of the pole shoe in such a manner that when the field current flows through it, then adjacent poles having opposite polarity are produced. So the field winding which is placed on the pole core and the power is supplied to the field windings, then it will create the magnetic field. The field windings are placed in such a way that the adjacent poles should have opposite polarity. If it is a four-pole machine, then one will be the north pole, second will be the south pole, then again north pole, then again south pole, and so on. So this is basically the structure of the pole shoe and with the field winding. And here it can be shown in the stator how the field windings are connected. The main purpose of the field winding is that it creates the electromagnet to produce a uniform magnetic field. The field windings form an electromagnet that produces a field flux within which the rotor armature of the DC motor rotates and results in the effective flux starting. So when the current is supplied to the field windings, the magnetic field will be produced. Then the flux will flow from north pole to south pole. It will cross the air gap and it will passes to the rotor. So it will cut the rotor conductor, and according to the requirement, it will operate either as a motor by using F is equal to BIL, or as a generator, that is minus N d phi by dt. Basically, for larger size DC machines, normally the electromagnets are used. Permanent magnets are not used there because the strength of the permanent magnet is low, and also with the time, the strength of the permanent magnet gradually decreases. So if we use the field windings, we can easily control the uh, current, and then we can control how amount of flux should be developed, what amount of flux should be developed. Field windings are basically made by the copper or the aluminum, that is the conducting material. There are two ways of connecting the field winding to the armature in case of self-excited machine. They can be connected either in series or in shunt. Later we'll discuss about the type of the DC machines. Here we can see that one type of machine is called the self-excited machine. There the power will be supplied to the field winding. That means the current will be flowing to the field winding by the EMF which is produced in the machine itself. It is considered as a self-excited machine. So in this case, the field winding and armature winding should be connected to each other. So there are two possible type of connections. One is called the series connection. That means the field windings and the armature windings should be connected in series, or there should be in parallel connection. Now, if it is connected in series, then less number of turns with larger cross-section area conductors are used. And if it is connected in shunt, the winding would be of large turns whose cross-section area should be less so as to withstand the whole supply voltage. It will be discussed later in detail. Basically, when we connect the field winding in series with armature windings, then the total load current will flow through the field windings also. Therefore, the resistance of the series field winding should be as low as possible. Otherwise, there will be huge amount of losses occur. That's why for series field winding, it should have less number of turns with larger cross-sectional area so that the resistance of the winding should be low. And in case of shunt, when we connect the field winding in parallel with the armature, in this case, the total terminal voltage is connected is supplied across the field winding. Therefore, the field winding resistance should be very high to reduce the current flowing through the field winding. Next is the interpole. These are the pole structures generally smaller than the main pole and are placed in between the main poles. Here in this figure we can see that this is the main pole. This is the north pole and this is the south pole. These are the main poles. And in between these main poles, some small amount of magnetic field or the poles are developed. This is considered as the interpole. These windings of the interpole are less turns since it is connected in series with the armature windings. The uh, interpole windings are always supplied by the armature. That's why their number of turns would be very low and their resistance of the interpole field windings would be very low. The main purpose of the interpole is to reduce the armature reaction, thereby reducing the spark at the brush contact. Basically, when the machine is at a running condition, then some current is flowing in the rotor conductors also. As a result, another magnetic field will be produced in the rotor conductors. The magnetic field is also produced in the stator, and when it is in running condition, another magnetic field will be produced. And this magnetic field will oppose the stator magnetic field in two ways, either by cross magnetization or by demagnetization. This is considered as the armature reaction. So basically, the main flux will be distorted and the performance of the machine will be deteriorated. Therefore, interpoles are basically used to reduce the armature reaction. The polarity of the interpole is made same as that of the main pole ahead of it in the direction of the rotation. That means if the machine is rotating in anti-clockwise direction, so if it is the south pole, then the next interpole should also have south pole. If it is the north pole, then the next interpole should have also the north pole. Next is the brass and brass holders. Brushes are rest on commutator segments and slide on the segments when the commutator rotates, keeping the physical contact to collect or supply the unidirectional current. So basically, we have already discussed energy conversion takes place in the rotor, in the rotating part. But in case of motor, the power is supplied from the external static circuit, and in case of generator, the power will be supplied to the external static circuit. Therefore, there should be connection between the rotating machine and the external static circuit, and brass is that particular medium. So here this is a rotor armature winding. With the armature winding, another cylindrical part is connected, which is considered as a commutator that we will discuss later. So power supply is basically flow through this commutator, either from source to the rotor or from rotor to the load. And this current will be supplied to the external load, or the current will be flowed through the rotor through these brushes. So brushes are fixed in its position. It is not a rotating, but it is connected with the rotor. That is the part of the commutator. So when the entire machine, entire rotor is rotating, the brush will be fixed in its position and it will maintain the supply between the external static circuit and the rotor of the machine. Generally, it is made of carbon or graphite, which can give the smooth surface at the contact so as to reduce the spark and wear and tear of the commutator bar. If the contact between the rotating part and the static part is not smooth, then there may be a chances of the sparking. So the contact should be very smooth so that no sparking will happen. So this is the concept of the brass which is connected to the commutator segment. These are fixed to the yoke by means of the brass holder. Brass is basically connected, is fixed with the yoke, that is the stator part, by using the brass holder. Next is the armature core. Till now we have discussed all about the part of the stator. Now here we will discuss about part of the rotor. So first part is considered as the armature core. So it is the rotating part of a DC machine. It is cylindrical in shape with a large number of slots on its periphery to carry the armature winding. The armature is built up of thin laminated circular sheets made by low reluctance material like cast iron or silicon steel for reducing the eddy current losses. It may provide with the air duct for the axial airflow for cooling purpose. So let's see this figure. This is considered as the armature core. Here we can see that it is a cylindrical shape uh, structure, and there are number of slots are in the periphery and throughout the periphery. If we see the front view or the cross-sectional view, it will be look like this. So this is the core of the armature, and these are the slots. Within the slots, the armature windings or the rotor windings are placed. Here the rotor windings are placed. There are there may be number of holes on the armature core. This is just to pass the air flow, because during the running operation there will be lots of energy loss and the heat will be produced. So to dissipate the heat, this uh, there is the hole where the air can flow. So it will be basically for the cooling purpose. The core of the armature is made by thin laminated sheets. So here it is shown as one laminated sheet. Again, the laminated sheet is basically used to reduce the eddy current loss, and it is the material used here is cast iron or the silicon steel, that is to reduce the hysteresis loss. So this is the structure of the armature core. The main purpose of the armature core is to hold the armature winding, and armature winding is the part of the machine where actually the energy conversion takes place. So the armature winding, which is made from copper wire, is basically used for the armature winding. It consists of large number of insulated coils having one or more number of turns. These coils are placed in the armature core slot and connected in series or parallel depending upon the type of the winding. So we have already seen the structure of the core, structure of the armature core, and we have seen the slot. Then the armature windings are placed on this slot. So here the connection may be either in series or in parallel. That we'll discuss later after this slide. Uh, where depending upon the requirement, the connection may be either in series or in parallel. So this is made by copper wire, but it is insulated by the varnish. And this armature conductor is the part where actually the energy conversion takes place. That means if we give the power supply, electrical power supply, this power supply will be given to this armature winding, and then it will create the force depending upon F is equal to BIL formula, and then the torque will be produced. So we'll get the mechanical power output in terms of the rotation. If it is as a generator, then this armature will be made to rotate by some external prime mover, and when this armature rotates within a constant magnetic field, then the flux will cut the armature conductor, and according to Faraday law of electromagnetic induction, the EMF will be induced in this armature conductor. So basically this is the main part where the energy conversion takes place. There are two types of windings used in armature. One is called the lap winding, another is called the wave winding. The lap winding is basically preferred when high current and low voltage machines to be developed. That means uh, in case of rating of the machine, if we require more current but the voltage is less, then the lap winding is basically used. This is also considered as a parallel connection. This is also considered as a parallel connection. Whereas wave winding is used where high voltage and low currents are required, which is also called as a series connection. So let's discuss the armature winding in detail. So as we discussed, there are basically two types of the armature winding. One is called the lap winding, and other is called the wave winding. So first is the lap winding. The conductors here are joined in such a way that their parallel path and pole are equal in numbers. The end of each armature coil is connected to the adjacent segment on the commutator, and the number of brushes in the lap winding is equal to the number of parallel paths, and these brushes are equally divided into negative and positive polarity. So this is the structure of the lap connection. Here it is the commutator. We have already discussed that there is the armature, and we have armature. There are a number of slots, and the armature windings are placed here. And here another small cylindrical part is connected, which is considered as a commutator. And there are a number of segments from the commutator also. All the conductors in one slot of the armature is connected to one segment of the commutator. Because the current flowing to the armature windings, if it is supplied from the external source, then it will pass from brass to commutator and then to the armature windings. And if it is working as a generator, then the EMF or the current will be developed in the rotor. It will pass to the commutator, then to the brass, and then to the external load. That means all the conductors in one slot is connected in one segment of the commutator. So here, this is the segment of the commutator. It is shown in the horizontal line. In case of lap connection, the connection is like that. The winding is placed here, the conductor is placed here, and it is completed. The turn will be completed in the adjacent commutator segment. In segment 1, the first turn started and it will end at segment 2. The second turn will start from the same point, that means the segment 2, and it will end at segment 3. Similarly, the third turn will start from segment 3 and it will end at segment 4 and so on. So here we can see that the one turn overlaps the previous one. That means each turn is overlapping its previous turn. That's why this is considered as a lap connection. In case of lap connections, the number of parallel paths, that means the number of brushes, are equal to the number of poles. What is the number of parallel paths or the number of brushes? Brush is basically connected with the commutator, and it is the medium between the static external circuit and the rotating part. And brush is basically the collection point, we can say. So in case of lap connection, the number of brushes will be equal to the number of poles in the stator. For example, if pole in the stator of a machine is 4, so if we use the lap connection, then the number of parallel paths will be equal to the number of poles, that means 4. So there will be 4 brushes. Out of 4 brushes, 2 will be positive brush and 2 will be the negative brush, or you can say the polarity of the brushes, from where the supply is given or supply is collected. The lap winding is mainly used for the low voltage and high current machine application. As here the windings are bunched together under one pole. That means here if it is the north pole, then under the north pole there are a number of conductors. Here only 2 conductors are shown, 2 conductors in one side and 2 conductors in other side. So here these 2 conductors will be under the north pole and these 2 conductors will be under the south pole. So the EMF which is induced in these 2 conductors will be of same polarity, and similarly here. So the current flowing in this conductor will be in the same direction. If the current is flowing in the upward, then it will be in both the conductors, and here it will be the downward. So the total current here will be the summation of all the current, because here all the currents are considered as a bunch of conductors. They are parallel, so the voltage will remain same, but the current will be added. That's why the lap winding is basically used for low voltage and high current applications. The other type is considered as the wave connection. Here only two parallel paths are provided between the positive and the negative brushes. That means in case of wave connection, although the number of pole is equal to 4, but the number of parallel paths, or we can say the number of brushes, is always equal to 2. The finishing end here of one armature coil is connected to the starting end of the other armature coil commutator segment at the same distance apart. So let's see the connection of the wave winding. Let's say this is the starting point of the first coil. This it starts from here and it will finish, let's say, in this particular segment. Let's say it is segment 1 and it is segment 5. So the second coil will start from segment 5 of the commutator and it will end at segment 9. That means the distance will be equal. If the first turn starts at segment 1 and finish at 5, then the difference is 4. Similarly, the second coil will start at segment 5 and it will end at segment 9. So the difference will be equal. Here, the poles for each coil will be different. For example, if it is under the north pole, where the current is in the upward direction, it is the south pole, the current will be the downward. The same current will flow here. And again, it is the north pole, so the current will be again upward. And here again, it is the south pole, the current will be downward. So we can see that here the current will remain same and it will be unidirectional. It is considered as a series connection. So in case of series connection, the current will remain same, but the voltage will be the summation of all the potential difference across each and every conductor, because in series we know that the voltage sources are added. So the EMF which is induced here, let's say it is plus, it is minus, then here it will be minus, it will be plus, then again it will be minus, it will be plus, and so on. So the voltage induced in each and every conductor will be added. That's why it is used for high voltage and low current applications. Here only two parallel paths are connected, so only two brushes are required to make the connection between the external static circuit and the rotating machine. The number of brushes are equal to the number of parallel paths, that means 2. And this type of winding is basically used for high voltage and low current applications that we have discussed here. Next is the commutator. Commutator is a rotary electrical switch in DC machines that periodically reverse the current direction between the rotor and the external circuit. It is a cylindrical structure made up of copper segments stacked together but insulated from each other by mica. The main function of the commutator is to collect the current from the armature conductor as well as supply the current to the load using the brushes. It also provides the unidirectional torque for the DC motor. So basically, the purpose of the commutator is to convert the AC current to DC current in case of generator, and it converts DC current to AC current in case of motor. So we can see this is a two-way switch. When the machine is working as a generator, in this case, the rotor will be rotating within a constant magnetic field. Then in the rotor conductors, the EMF will be induced, and the EMF will be induced according to the Faraday law of electromagnetic induction. And according to this formula, the EMF induced is always alternating in nature. So here also the EMF induced in the armature winding is alternating. But as it is the DC generator, then the output power supply should be DC. Therefore, when the current is flowing from armature winding to the external circuit through the commutator and through the brushes, then this AC current will be converted to DC because of this commutator. Similarly, if we consider the DC motor, the power will be supplied from external DC supply source. Then this power will be supplied to the brushes, then commutator, and from commutator to the armature winding. Now, the force that is produced depends upon BIL, and corresponding the torque will be produced, that is the product of force into radius. Here it can be seen that if the current in a particular conductor does not change its polarity after each magnetic pole comes, then the force as well as the torque will not be unidirectional. Therefore, let's say uh, this is the north pole and this is the south pole, and here is the armature, and let's say this is one conductor, and here the current is, let's say, the dot current. So when it is operating as a motor, the current in the armature winding is dot under the north pole. So according to the Fleming's left-hand rule, we can find the direction of the force, and it will be in the clockwise direction. Now, when this armature rotates and it comes under the south pole, then the magnetic field will be now changed. So, if we not change the direction of the current through this conductor, then according to the Fleming's left-hand rule, now the force will be developed in the anti-clockwise direction. So, we will not get an unidirectional torque, so the machine will not perform as a motor. Therefore, as the conductor where the current is dot under the north pole, when it comes under the south pole, here the current should be cross. There are two types of current direction, one is called the dot and another is called the cross. So when it is under the north pole, here the current should be dot, and as it comes under the south pole, the direction should be cross. So if the direction through the conductor changes, then the uh, force developed will be unidirectional and it will be again the clockwise direction, because in Fleming's left-hand rule, if two parameters change its direction, then the third parameter, that means the direction of the force, will remain same. So this conversion of the current direction to the armature conductor is basically done by this commutator. So we can say the commutator basically changes the DC current to AC when it operates as a motor. The generator produces the AC current when the rotor turns in the magnetic field. The commutator on the DC generator converts the AC into pulsating DC, that we have discussed. The EMF which is induced, it is always AC in nature. But here the commutator will change the AC power into DC power. The commutator assures that the current from the generator always flow in one direction. That's why it will be considered as a DC current. The brushes ride on the commutator and make good electrical connections between the generator and the load. On the other hand, for DC motor, the purpose of the commutator is to ensure that the current flowing through the rotating winding is always in the same direction, and the proper coil on the rotor is energized in respect to the field coil that we have discussed here. If the conductor is under the north pole, the current should be dot, and if it comes under the south pole, the current should be cross. And this conversion is typically made by the commutator. Next is the bearing. The bearing or the ball bearing or the roller bearings are basically fitted in the end housings of the machine. The end housings are attached to the end of the main frame, that is the stator yaw, and provide support to the bearing. There are two types of housing. One is the front housing and there is the back housing. The front housing supports the bearing as well as the brass assembly, whereas the rear housing supports the bearing only. So here it is the figure of the front housing and the rear housing. This is the part of the stator, or you can say the part of the frame, that is the yoke. And bearings are basically fixed with the housing. In the front side, it will support the bearing as well as the brass assembly, whereas in the backward side, the rear housing, it will support only the bearing, because in front as well as in the rear part, in both sides, the bearings are basically used. The function of the bearing is to reduce the friction between the rotating and the stationary parts of the machine, because the stator, which is the outer part, it is stationary, and rotor, which is the inner part, it is rotating. So there should not be any frictions between the stationary part and the rotating part. And bearings basically ensure this point. Mostly high carbon steel is used for the construction of the bearing, as it is a very hard material, because the bearings will be very hard, otherwise there may be chances of the mechanical breakdown. Next is the shaft. The shaft is basically made of mild steel with a maximum breaking strength. Shaft is the part of the rotor. It is also the rotating part of the machine. Just like here, this is the rotor commutator, and this is the shaft. Here also it is a shaft. The shaft is basically used to transfer the mechanical power from and to the machine. If it is working as a generator, then you have to input the mechanical power, and this mechanical power will be input to the machine through the shaft. That means some other external machine will be coupled with the generator through the shaft, and when the machine is rotating, it will also make to rotate the rotor to rotate. Similarly, if it is working as a motor, when because of the motoring action, the rotor is rotating. Along with the rotor, the shaft will also rotate. And then we can connect the mechanical load to this shaft, and we'll get the mechanical load as a rotational speed. If we connect the fan blade, it will working as a fan. If we connect the pump, it will use to pull the water, and so on. The rotating parts like armature core, commutator, cooling fans, etc., all are connected with the shaft. This is considered as a key to the shaft. So here, this is the key. This part is considered as the key, and the external system is basically coupled with the machine by using the key. Also, the armature core, commutator, cooling fans, etc., these all are connected to the shaft by using the key. So these are the parts, or you can say the construction of the DC machine. Remember one thing, as far as the construction is concerned, it is similar for both motor as well as for generator. So let's see the part of the DC machine in total. So this is the part of the DC machine shown by this figure. Here it is the frame or yoke. It is the part of the stator which is connected on the lead. Here this is the pole core, and this is also the pole core, and this is the field winding. When the power is supplied to this field winding, current is flowing to this field winding, the magnetic flux will be developed, and this magnetic flux will cross the air gap, and it will cut the rotor. This is the part of the rotor. These are the slots. This is the rotor, the made by thin laminated sheet, and within the slots, these are the rotor conductors, or we can say the armature conductors. The armature conductors, the of each slot is connected to the segments of the commutator. So this is the commutator. These are the segments shown here, and in between each segment there is some laminations, there is some insulation by mica. This is the bearing. This part is considered as the bearing. here also, and this also the part of the bearing, which is used to make the rotor to rotate smoothly. Then here the fan is used. This is just for the cooling purpose. It is also connected on the shaft, and this is the shaft which is basically connected to the external machines or external load. If we want to see the rotor separately, so this is the rotor, the figure of the rotor only. Here this is the armature, or you can say the core of the armature. These are the slots. Within the slots, the armature conductors are placed, or the armature windings are placed, either in lap connection or in wave connection. Then all the conductors of one slot is connected to individual commutator segments. So these are the commutator segments laminated by it is insulated by mica, and then this is the shaft which is connected with the rotor. So this is the total part of the rotor. That's all. Thank you.